Tony Martinez. I'm with Big D Metalworks. I've been with Big D Metalworks this is my 26th year. Started working in the shop as a finisher. Consider myself a finisher by trade. About 9-10 years ago, I got promoted to the office. I am the production coordinator, manager, whatever you would like to call me. And I deal with the scheduling of all the projects, of all the employees, gathering the data, and meeting with everyone. As I researched this and everything, I kept thinking to myself, think about it. What is it that we do every day, every single day? Things that we do or should manage. In our personal lives, our health, our family, homes, finances. We do this. Business, we want to manage sales, customers, costs, and employees. That's a given. So we're doing part of it personally, and I'm sure we're doing it professionally as well. So it just said, as I went through the listserv and I kept looking at this, we're doing it regardless. So you need to just fine-tune these things in our business. What I did is I took some of the questions that were asked on the listserv. The ones in the blue that are highlighted in blue. They were asking questions, plain and simply. I left people's names off. Some of y'all may recognize y'all's questions. I'm sorry if I'm in your way. The ones in the red are the responses. People know and understand how important it is to gather and schedule and to come up with some kind of plan. You need a plan. And people are constantly looking for it. Some of the responses back and everything, been struggling with the same issue for a long time. Years ago, got sucked into using job boss. Buying job boss. It turns out that it requires a lot of attention. Surprise. Another one, go through here, it still requires daily attention. I'm not sure exactly what everyone's looking for. But what I'm here to do is show you what Big D does, why it does it, why is it important. It is a tool. It's a tool in our company, and I'm sure it's a tool in several of y'all's companies. You basically looking at the answers and stuff. Let's face it. We need to keep track of this stuff. We need to know where we stand in our business, day in, day out. We're not fortunate enough to, say, be given commission work, and I'm sure that most of us don't want to, nor can we afford to be starving artists. We're in this to hopefully make a profit. And why is it important to track this information? I was looking at the handouts. I got kind of shrunk down, so that may be hard to read. Sales capacity, customer satisfaction. Well, salesmen need to know what capacity we have. We sell blocks of time. That's the way we approach it. Salesmen need to know what do we have to work with. Customer satisfaction. Come on, you got to build a schedule. You've been given a job. Customer's giving you a schedule. You need to make it work. Scheduling applications. Well, employees need to know what they're doing. Day in, day out. I'm sure most of y'all I'm sure do schedules daily. managing customers' expectations. By the way, there was probably a typo in the handout. So, in fact, I know it was. Managing customers' expectations. What I mean by this is, again, you were given a schedule by the customer. How many of us have gone through and started a project and everything, you got the schedule going, lo and behold, the customer's posted it, there's a schedule, you go, they're nowhere near ready where they should be. So, you have to manage them, you have to make them aware of this. You're doing it for two reasons. The main one is to make sure that they understand you're not going to get there if this is not done. How many of y'all deal with that? Every single one of y'all, right? How many times it happens time in and time out? So that's, you've got to manage them. And the sad part about it is, when you bring, a lot of times when you bring it up, now, okay, by the way, it still has to be done on that day. Conflicting job demands. Again, go back to the scheduling, go back to the sales capacity. Sit here, you've quoted a project, you've been given a project. Now you've got to schedule, see where you can fit it in. Where can you start? Where does design stand? Can they work this into their schedule so that we can get this started on time? Where do we have room in production? Can we make this work? I can sell this one, will it fit? Do we really and truly want to take this job on, knowing the due date, but we already have other commitments? You know, the times you got to say, no, I can't do the job. Why would you take on something on a loaded schedule and knowingly not be able to hit that? So a lot of times you got to say no to some of these. You hate to, especially nowadays, but you want to make sure that you give that customer what he wants. Why? Because ultimately you want that customer back, am I right or wrong? So you got to have a plan. You got to be able to look at things ahead. Contingency planning. Many times when we're in the middle of a job and something, customer calls up, something changes, stop. All of a sudden something happens on another project, we got to do this. So if you don't have a plan in place, you can't adjust, or it becomes nothing but chaos. So if you, again, going back, if you have the plan, it helps you determine what can I let slip. Is this going to let, you know, do I have a week, do I have 2 weeks on this one so that I can accommodate this issue? Every single day, day in, day out, every week, something comes up. We build a schedule every week, daily, weekly. We plan out 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks out. We all know it's going to change. I build this schedule on a Friday. By Monday morning, 9 times out of 10, something's changing for various reasons. Having a schedule, having a plan. Efficiency, estimating. I want to show y'all what Big D does, how they do it, what systems we use, why it's important for us to do it. The systems that we use, estimating. You know, the salesman, we got data going back almost 20 years on all different types of projects, from stairs to rails, you name it. So we pretty much know what a stair or a rail is going to take. But that doesn't mean that estimating gets it right every single time. So when we gather the data, that also helps sales determine, did we do this right? I'm here to tell you that every Wednesday, we sit down in staff, production, design, project management, sales. We go through these schedules. Sometimes it's not pretty. We will piss each other off. There's no way to get in that. There's no way to this. I gave you that information back and forth. But we're able to do that because we have a plan in place. We have processes in place. And the point that I'm trying to make is that if you all do not have any processes, if you all do not plan, again, it's going to be chaos. No matter how big or small you are, you have to be able to gather information. That's the key. Going back from the very beginning, Big D's been around since 1981, I believe it is. It's one of the Big D Metalworks. Started as ornamental iron and gradually grew into architecture. But even when it was a 5 or 6 man shop, there was always some kind of schedule. There was always some kind of plan. It may not have been in an Excel spreadsheet, it may have been on a piece of paper or whatever, but there was something in place. MIS. Management Information System. Schedule. How many of y'all still use the time card punch in? It doesn't matter whether you use the time card. It doesn't matter if we use Job Boss. I'm not here to sell anyone on any kind of program. I'm here to stress the importance of gathering this information. All kinds of systems out there. And those are just a couple of them that I, come up with. Schedules. People do them on whiteboards, Excel spreadsheets, Gantt charts, Outlook calendar. I'm going to do your schedule on a whiteboard. Nothing wrong with that. You have a plan. You have a plan in place. Everyone knows what they are supposed to be doing. Again, I'm stressing the importance of gathering this information. And it does not matter whether or not you have a Job Boss that you can download all the information, gather it up, run reports, or whether at the end of the week you take your time cards, you add up the hours on the jobs, whatever it takes. This is just a copy of our traveler for Job Boss. Every job that's sold gets loaded into Job Boss. You take the hours, sales and put in for fabrication, for finishing, for installation, shipping, packaging, whatever. It's loaded into the system. Guys go in there, they scan where all these numbers and everything at. That's bar scanning. They take the one, they scan into it, they're loaded into the system. At the end of the day, they punch out. End of the week, I run an audit. It tells me what these guys were on. Now, as I mentioned, this is what we use. This gathers in, and we take the data that's collected here, and we combine it with the schedules, with some of the handouts that I gave y'all. And I'll pull it up here in a minute and show you, because I can get this loaded into the PowerPoint. Every week I run an audit on the projects. We got a list of the projects, I run the audit. Since I do the scheduling and everything, for the most part, I know who was supposed to be working on the project. And after so many years of doing it, I can spot someone that shouldn't have been on there. Because let's face it, every time a human is messing with something electronic, boom, there's going to be errors. Garbage in, garbage out. Simple as that. We had a project a couple of weeks ago. The system went down. We finally got it back up. And when we ran an audit on it, Lo and behold, the numbers are going crazy. It's like, what's going on? Run an audit, we determine there's an issue. We go back and look at it. Well, the system itself, when it shut down, it kept going. It kept gathering. It was saying this employee was still punched in. When the system came back up, lo and behold, that several employees were working 200-300 hours in one day. So you still have to go back, checks and balances. You still have to go back and check it. That's why I say, you run an audit every week, you adjust your hours down from there. Hours are in this system, in Job Boss. We compare that to our schedules. The numbers should be matching. And the way we do our schedules, we can determine whether or not we're on track or we have issues. Any questions? Yes?
Does your recap system identify the different types of work that's necessary? For example, structural fabrication versus miscellaneous fabrication versus stairs versus handrails, et cetera, et cetera?
Now, what we do,
or do you lump it together by job?
We lump it together, like this one here. If it's 10870. If there's stairs in it, if there's rails in it or whatever, what we can do is we can go ahead, we call this one the master number. Then we can go and assign it an A, a B, or a C, which would mean that we'd have different travelers for that particular job.
Okay.
This is an example of an audit that was done in a week's time. I know it's kind of blurry, and I tried my best to get it expanded into the PowerPoint, but it just don't work. I run an audit. This is what I run every Friday. I give it a date range. It tells me the guys that were on it. It tells me how many hours they worked on it. And it gives me the total for the week. So, this particular one had 188 hours in 1 week. I know what our schedule says. So I'll go back and I'll subtract from that. But not only am I doing that, I'm also going out into the shop. I'm looking at it, at the projects. I'm asking questions. Am I seeing what I'm seeing? Are you going to be done with this tomorrow? Or is there something else? And you still got to communicate with your employees. Even though that all these systems are in place, there's still communication that has to happen. And that's going back to the listserv. If you go back through and unfortunately you start reading, it's like, well, it takes daily attention. Yes, it does. There is no magical system. If there is, I'd like to see it. This is our project list. Now, this is just Excel. President of the company, throughout the years and everything, kept expanding on this, kept building on it, input from everyone, go through it, determine, what do we need? What information do we need? When a project is sold, put on the list, the hours are loaded in, who's the project manager, who's the salesman. So as you go through here, it's all adjusted, it's all loaded in here. This line here should match what is in Job Boss. You got to start at the beginning. They got to match at the very beginning. The next column over, estimated hours to complete, is what I adjust every week, based on the audits that I run weekly. So this changes every week. Again, that goes right back to estimating. Project was sold for 200 hours. Go back and see what's happened in a week's time. Daily, week, whatever. Fortunately, as long as I've been in the business, I can pick up on a lot of things. And then also talking to the lead fabricators. This is what's left. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Yeah, we're on track. No, I think it's gonna go over by maybe 12 hours. Okay, I need to know this so that I can load it up. So that we know how to plan it. That affects the job starting, the next job starting, or whatever.
How many employees do y'all have?
We have in the shop 21 and administrative staff 11. We have 5 finishers, gentleman that takes care of the packaging and the shop cleanup, and the rest of them are fabricators.
So you got 11 in the office?
Yep.
Yeah. Good idea.
So you let the shop guys know how many hours are figured?
Oh, absolutely. What we do a lot of times at the beginning of a project is we'll sit down, we'll go over it with our pre-production meeting. We review the drawings, we go through it. This is the hours in it. This is the due date. So they know off the bat what they're facing. I'll order the material for most of the jobs, so I know where they're coming in and how we can schedule as well. So they know where they're going to start. Now, what also helps us here with gathering this information, let's face it, mistakes happen. If something in design went wrong, it affects production, the fabrication. So what we do is, again, in Job Boss, we'll go back in and we'll rework hours. And we assign it whether it's because of design, whether it was fabrication, finishing, project management, whatever. We assign it. And at the end of a project, we run audits, we run the costing, all that information is in there. So we can go back and review it. And quarterly, we do job reviews. The projects are complete, we'll review, or quarterly, whichever. We try to have a couple of them so that we can have a discussion. What went right, what went wrong.
And where does it usually go wrong?
It can go wrong in several places. It really does. There's not really, it may be fabrication gets beat up on a couple of jobs, all of a sudden design gets beat up on a couple of jobs. The bottom line is something went wrong. We as a team need to figure it out and fix it. Yes?
How do you keep, when you sit down and go over the hours that you have for a job, how do you keep your guys motivated to stay? Like, you say, well, if we come in under hours on this job and there's no mistakes and everything's done right, do you have stuff that you like, do you throw like a pizza party, or do you give them lunch, or how do you keep them motivated to stay on task?
Yes, we do. We do several cookouts throughout the year and everything. We'll order in pizza and all that, and it kind of goes off on a different subject on the list, or there is an incentive program there as well.
So you just keep morale high by doing stuff like
Yes.
that?
Yes.
How do you keep your employees aware of the daily schedule?
Daily schedule is printed out, posted by the time clock. We have 2 floor supervisors. They print out the weekly schedule. They know what the plan is, but they also realize that there needs to be adjustments made. Yes?
Is there something on the program you're talking about that they have to identify if it's something that they did wrong or something that came out as far as like mistakes? How do you know, if something that they messed up or something else is messed up?
Well, it's quickly determined and everything is that, there's an issue with design or whatever. A lot of times it's caught, something's going on. As the fabricators are fabricating, they got the drawings in front of them, they're fabricating. Something ain't right. Now, we're very fortunate enough that our employees have been there from all the way from 3 years up to 28 years. So they know pretty much what's going on. They know they have the ability to stop a project and say, this ain't working. We'll get together, design, project manager, discuss it. Is there really an issue here? Yeah, there is. Okay, we need to adjust to it for it. What's it gonna take us to adjust?
And when you collect that information on a daily or weekly basis from them, you will find out if they're going over the hours and you ask them what happens. Well, I made a mistake and I had to redo this. They'll own up to it more often than not. So just get that relationship.
Establishing,
That was probably more
you
your
know,
question, right?
What's that?
Is that more your
Yeah.
question?
you know, we discuss it, we go over it. You know, they're big boys. We're all big boys. We know, we admit, many a times I've gone out there and I've told the guys I made a mistake. I'm ashamed to admit it.
Do you find that it helps promote like competition to do well amongst employees and fabricators?
A little bit. It used to more so years ago, but everyone's just kind of, you know, after so many years together, and since I build the schedules, you learn, what's this guy's name? What's this one? What's this one? You know, and I'll schedule 2 or 3 of them together on a project, and I try to move them around in the next project and everything. They're a bunch of great guys, they really are. You know, and in competition, yeah, every once in a while they can, you know, well, that's the job of it. No, that's the job we built. Yes, you had part of it. Yes, you were the lead fabricator. But it took all of us, all the way from the salesman to the office manager to the building. Everyone played a part in this. Yes.
So it's basically breaking down the wall and not having office and shop as one team.
One team. Now, I refer to us.
It's hard to do, to break down that wall.
Well, you know what, and here's the deal with it, as long as everyone's been together and working there and everything, is I refer to us all like a bunch of brothers. We will beat each other to death. We will piss each other off. I don't know how many times I'll piss Kurt off or JR back there. They do the same to me. I mean, we're like a bunch of brothers. And just like a bunch of brothers, we'll beat each other up. Just don't let an outsider come and try to beat up on one of us, because then we'll just go bad. This is the weekly schedule. This one's built every week based on the paperwork, when we're supposed to get our drawings back, line it out, who's working on what. You look down to the bottom, it gives you the tally of the hours. In terms, at the end of it, it gives you the tally for the week. Now, of course, this doesn't account for people calling in, mysteriously being sick on a Monday, or I forgot about that doctor's appointment on a Friday, and everything else. But at least we have a plan in place, and it lets us adjust.
Do you schedule the exact number of hours available in a week? Let's say you have 10 guys that all work 40 hours a week, you schedule 400 hours, or do you
Yes.
schedule 600 and then,
The exact, everyone is in 40.
okay,
There's a couple of them because they're part-time.
yeah. Now what happens if they do better on a job, they beat the hours, then you have to find the next job and get ready for it?
Yeah. We always try, again, and let me show you, once this weekly one is done. This is our master schedule. It has all the projects, essentially, that were on the project list. Goes per week. Has a tally of the week. Wait, so forth. So you can start seeing where, based on the paperwork, based on where the project needs to start, if everything is correct, that week, the week of the 31st shows to be 91 hours over our capacity. Now, does that change? Yes. Again, if someone finished up a project 8 hours early, 10 hours early, well, that shrinks that down, that you go back and readjust and everything else. But every week, we start out with a total capacity. As you can tell again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks there, we see what we're doing here. On out. We know where we stand. Go back down here. See what you got. What does sales, again, the data. This tells sales. You know what? We're going to run short 400 or 500 hours in this week, or starting this week for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Let's see what jobs are out there in this time frame that'll fit in this slot. Okay, salesman, design, production, everyone reviews this on Wednesday. They know where we stand. Let me ask this question. Voting has just happened on the top job. How many of y'all went through, admired the projects, looked at how complex some of these projects were, just by the pictures, and as you go through the card and you start reading everything, what went into it, what all they had to do, and all of a sudden you look at the hours, there's 50 hours, it took 50 hours. I don't know about you guys, but again, it's like, I hope it was a typo, or it's seriously got you second guessing yourself. I mean, I know I'm not the only one. How many of y'all? What does that? Yes. What does that tell you? That there's still a lot of people out there that are not gathering the information needed. They don't know what it took to build that job. Truthfully. They built it. What happens 2 months down the road? Someone wants another one like it. They'll sell it for the same price. I mean, maybe they made money. I don't know. I don't see how. But if they sold it for the same price, I mean, come on. Seriously, I mean, let's face it. Times are tough right now. You need all the information that you can gather. Again, from a time card to an MIS system, whatever it is, it's survival of the fittest. That's what it's boiling down to.
I was asking him how valid the historical data is, and to what extent they use that to analyze that.
I was asking our historical information, you know, how valid is it? Well, again, we have that historical data. You got a set of stairs that you built 10 years ago or whatever, and you got another one. Well, you go back through, the salesmen go back through, they look at this. Well, this was a steel stair. It just got primed. Switchback stair, helical stair, whatever it is. There's a lot of similarity to it. It has a few little differences. So let me adjust for those differences. Again, going back, reviewing these projects quarterly, finding out what went right, what went wrong. Once it's determined what went right, what went wrong, okay, we're changing this. Salesman, you should have sold this for 200 more hours when it should have. Fabrication, you went over the hours. What went wrong? Why did it go over? Did we do a process wrong? What can we do to change that process? Improve on these hours. So again, as we review these projects quarterly, we make adjustments. Then that data goes into the historical.
To further elaborate on that one, just recently we did a stair identical to one we did 2 years earlier. And it took, what, 150 man-hours more? And second time around,
Exactly my point.
And you have no change in personnel, you got the same personnel.
I don't know if we had the same personnel, but maybe different people did that, but something went wrong.
That's
Something went wrong.
That's
And we
exactly
didn't make
my
as much
point.
money from that.
How legitimate is that information, and
It
is it
is
truly
legitimate because that's what happened. It took place that many hours that time and that many hours this time. Just sometimes it takes longer.
And as you go back,
Material's different or whatever.
as you go back through, you realize and say, what was different? What happened here? Why? Did we do something different here?
Okay.
No.
Does that require one person to have historical knowledge of, and you have the advantage because you've been there a long time, do you have historical knowledge of most of the projects that Big D has done? And are you the one that makes the analyzation that says we need to adjust this up or down?
No, that information is gathered when we all, again, during those quarterly meetings, representing our production, sales, design, project managers, everyone sits there, we review the project. What happened on this one differently than on that one? What could have affected that?
So that analyzation is done.
It's a collaboration of everyone.
Before you bid the next one?
It's going into the system. Now we know what needed to be adjusted. Again, remember what I said. We go at each other. And we don't, and a lot of times,
I'm not
sales,
trying to uncover skeletons.
No,
I'm just
no, no.
curious to see how
I understand.
it works and whether there's sufficient input among all of you. In the heat of the battle, does Bubba come to Joe and say, what'd you bid that stair for?
Right.
Or does Joe say, gee, I don't remember.
There's been a couple of projects, let's face it, everyone has had to tighten up their numbers when they're estimating. Am I right or wrong? Just so that you can get that job. Did you tighten it up too much? Realistically, could that have happened? And it has. And we'll go back and we'll discuss it. Agree, disagree about the numbers. So,
The record keeping part of that, in job loss, we can look up any job that was a stair, and it list them, and you can go through there. Then you can go back to what the hours really were. You can then go on in network, pull up the shop drawings you built it from, and compare it to the new one you're estimating. And you have the original estimate of that as well. It's all in the same folder together. So the historical data is all there, and we have what I call it the lessons learned, or the autopsy of the job, or whatever you want to call it. Is you have that information in that same folder, like, hey, we goofed up because we bought the wrong material, or we did the wrong finish, or we didn't weld it right, we grinded it too much, or something like that. I mean, that all information.
I think it's wonderful that you have that resource. I'm not trying to
So
in any way talk it down. I'm just kind of curious.
But that's how
I'm glad you have.
it's that communication. You got to keep that communication going. Yes, Bruce.
Yeah, I know you guys have been scheduling for a long time, but just out of curiosity, in tracking your percentage on, let's say, the total fab hours, install hours, finish hours, what percentage of your jobs are you overly optimistic on versus underly optimistic on?
Gary.
far too many.
Well, that's the point. Human nature is we're very positive individuals on average, and it seems like there's a lot less winners than there needs to be.
And the thing there is some of these project reviews, a lot of times happen when it's, let's say we're going to be doing this for 6 weeks, we'll do a project review 2 weeks into it. Hey, we're consuming way too many hours because we're optimistic when we bid it. What can we do? Can we do a course correction now? Or we really just loused up and we're going to have to eat it. But we know it ahead of time, so we get the fabricators involved, like what can we do differently to get this done more quickly so we don't go over the budget. Sometimes you can and sometimes you cannot. I can tell you stories on both ways on 2 jobs that we just finished up that one was a big loser and one was a big winner.
It sounds like you're very proactive about it. A lot of times people brain lock and say, well, we're just going to have to chew this one till we can swallow it and get away from it.
That's it. You are exactly right, and that goes right back to the communication and daily, being aware of this daily.
So I never did answer your question, Bruce, but I don't know, 50-50?
You really think it's 50-50? Really?
In the present, in the last 3 years, we're probably over optimistic on mostly because you're sharpening your pencil and I think we can do this because we're trying to get more work. Even been at break even, which I think most of us have the last few years. And so it's probably more than that the last few years. Before that, it was, let's throw a couple hundred more man hours in it because we think we can get it. Opposed to, now it's like, okay, it's going to take this many and let's try to manage towards that number. We're not always successful.
Well, if you're 50-50, then the average is 0. That's a good thing.
Depends if
You
it's done right.
guys have an awesome system. It seems like you guys track everything We try to do it, we're a little more less sophisticated, the guys actually write on the traveler, the work order, here this many hours this day. They don't always write on the right one, they want to get out of there on Friday, they don't, so we have.
They always punch in the wrong.
Okay, it's just like, you have any trouble with that, or does that solve some of that?
And again, it goes right back to every week, me running my audits and job boss to adjust the schedules.
The MIS is
So I can
allows you
look
to
at
make
it.
mistakes faster.
Gotcha.
You still make mistakes, you just make them a lot faster, but then you can correct them as well.
You know, you go back through, you look, you know it, you know who's been, knowing your employees and everything, you know who was not supposed to be fabricating all that, but they fabricated. And well, I was saying about the jobs, about an A, B, and C. Say A is a stair, B is the rail, and C's, you know, smoke curtain or whatever. As one is wrapping up, is wrapped up, I'll go out there and I'll pull the trapper. Just so that they don't, because let's face it, the guys, if they've been working on a project for 2-3 weeks in a row, there's a schedule up there dated, they don't care, they know what they were working on, or supposedly working on, they're just gonna go out of habit, scan that job. And never once looked at the schedule. So it happens every week, yes.
And one of the problems we have, we bust a job into 3 segments. You know, we got one job, then we do A, B, C. Getting those guys to clock in under A, B, or C religiously, they're end up crossing the A, B, and C. And so you really don't have the data you really want and need on specific breakout. Do you have the same problem?
You correct that.
I corrected,
Yes, it happens a lot, but you correct it.
I'm the bearer of bad news a lot of times in the staff meeting. And again,
I couldn't even agree
just
with
the
that.
data off of the time clock, just the data off of the time clock is one issue. Believe it or not, hard to believe, huh? When they load up the project list, the salesmen go in there and they load it up, the sales manager loads it up. Lo and behold, them numbers ain't matching. So if you're comparing both of them, if they didn't load it up correctly, they're already over or under by 200-300 hours. So as we go through our staff and we review review projects as well, hours there every week as well. There's an issue here, guys. I'll go back and when I look at that report, I'll go back and I'll run an audit and everything. I'll look at the job boss, look at the hours there, look at the hours there. No, I'll send out an email. This is what I found. This needs to be adjusted. Because if they're not the same at the end of the project, it's either going to show that you're over or it's going to show that you're under. Again, garbage in, garbage out. Mark?
Do you cover your drafting hours? What you call design. I mean, is that part of the hours that you're managing as well, or your project management hours, or is that part of your overhead? Or is that
The design hours are loaded in. That design has a schedule as well. And JR goes back and adjusts that every week.
So your estimators are allotting hours for?
Yes. Yes.
We don't do that for project management.
That's overhead.
Yeah.
So, again, if you break it down as a job, A, B, C, say, stairs, rails, installation, A, B, C. Is that all you break it down to, or do you break it down even further than that?
Okay. Again, you're fabricating, finishing, and installing a stair. Boom, boom, boom. Each one of the letters has their own fabrication, finishing, install, whatever, shipping. So each one of them
Has
has.
their own code that's...
Yes, it has their own.
You said in the past that you could throw in 200 hours for a job if you thought you would get the job. Does that go onto the list of what you show the employees that you've allotted for that job?
For a whole clock.
Nope.
I said that kind of an overstatement, but the money for 200 man hours, I'm not sure what's the price I'm running, but the budget of hours.
So when you show the employees the hours, it's the hours that you think should be in it, not necessarily what's required.
Correct.
Not necessarily the profit of the job.
Yeah, it's what's been estimated. This is what we're doing. Again, so several of our projects take 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks in some cases to produce. So First week I let it ride based on what was estimated, because everyone's getting into it and all that. By the second week, I start asking more questions. This is what we have. This is what's left based on the hours left over. Do you see this correct? Think about it. Don't give me an answer right now. Think about it. I'll come back and we'll discuss it. If you think that the fabricator feels that it's not correct, you know, and he feels that it's going to be this much, I don't just take it and I'll challenge them. Why do you think it's going to take that much longer? Well, this. Really? But if you did it this, oh, well, I guess you're right. So it's back and forth. I mean, the fabricators a lot of times are right, team. It's
That interaction occurs between you and the fabrication
it
team
happens.
leader?
Yes,
or-
it happens between me. It happens between. I get with the project manager. This is what we got going. Again, it's brought up in staff. You have to have that communication.
What techniques have been successful for team building for you guys? How do you, for, not to downplay it, but how do you maintain the rah-rah, let's get it done?
A lot of pride in what they do, really is. And, you know, we make a commitment. When we take on a job, we make a commitment. Big D makes a commitment.
So
And all the employees are Big D.
You stress the teamwork aspect of it?
Yes.
The one big group? Okay.
And again, it goes back to also, and a bunch of good guys, but let's face it, each one of them has their own little attitudes, or I don't want to work with him, and I'm not asking you to marry him. Let's get it done. And throughout the years, you learn who works better on what type. This guy can put a stair together in a heartbeat. Am I going to take him and put him to have to fabricate a stainless steel rail? Because it's got to, you know, no, I'm not going to do that.
You manage to their capabilities?
Yes.
The way it's done? Okay.
And that does help the morale part of it. They're not making them do things that they don't do. Now, sometimes you're in the finishing area for 2
Yeah.
weeks, even though you're a fabricator.
You know what? Yes. When you Kirk brings that up, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we had a project that, quite frankly, the project was so large that the finishers were getting overwhelmed. So I took several of the fabricators. Guys, I need you to do this part of the finishing. Take this off their back so that they have a chance to complete this on time. And they were okay with that.
Well,
Finishers at the same time. If there's not much going on in finishing or fabrication's behind, you're going over here. You're going to go do this in fabrication.
Well, it seems like that would be the individual's challenge and said, well, yeah, we had to jump in and help you. And the finishers could turn it around and say, well, I'm the guy who makes chicken salad out of your chicken crap, you know, so.
And you know what? You're absolutely correct. And remember what I said at the beginning of this class is that I started there as a finisher. And I'm here to tell you that the fabricators for years looked down at the finishers. You're nothing. No, buddy, this job's just as important as yours. You can build it. I don't finish it. It ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, well, it's the painter's job to fill the cracks.
Right.
You know,
So they've learned to respect each other a whole lot more. And finishers have, you know they have the authority to go over there and talk to the fabricators, say, man, you need to let me do pre-finish this because I'm never going to get it done. So I don't have a problem with that.
But that remains a friendly competition as opposed to
Yes.
to an adversary.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the questions again that came up on the listserv, what tools are y'all using? What kind of templates are y'all using? Well, when I started this class, started researching on what I was going to do, I just literally went and Googled. And these are a couple of resources that I ran across. Perhaps there's something there for y'all to look at. I spent about a half an hour just going through it, and I click on one, and then there's some samples there. There's some, that I think I've seen a couple of them that maybe cost you $20 or whatever. I don't know, just some resource so that you can, perhaps there's something out there that might help you improve the way you're doing it. Conclusion here, guys. This is the way I read it. And again, what I've been saying from the beginning of the class, you need to make a commitment. If you're not willing to make that commitment, then you're going to be dealing with these issues over and over and over. I mean, let's face it, past 3 to 6 years hasn't been friendly for a lot of folks. We've had to sharpen them pencils. We've had to let people go. We've had to adjust, figure out ways of doing things differently. Those are just the facts. Everyone is dealing with it. Luckily, some of us are busy. Not as busy as we'd like to be. But we're fortunate. We've had, Big D's been very fortunate to have had the work that they've had. You know, and again, going back to, you were asking the question about competition and how do you teamwork and everything. We just wrapped up a project last week. Before I came here, I got here on Wednesday. On Tuesday, I loaded up the truck with 5 of the guys, 2 times, and I took them to the job site. Let them walk around, take a look at what they were a part of. Spent about a half an hour out there going through it and everything else. Look at it. Oh, I remember when I had time to do this one. So that's where this winded up. Let them look at it. Let them appreciate it. That gets them around also. Yes?
Do you have interaction between your fabricators or assemblers and the field people? How does that work?
Yeah.
Your installers?
Yeah. We communicate all the time.
Is that, are you the clearinghouse for those issues, or is it fabricator to installer, installer to fabricator?
I'm the referee. I'm the referee. You know, and that's it.
Tony, I'm not trying to put it down.
What I'm getting at is I'm the referee at times, because quite frankly, let's face it, some guys just.
You're the moderator, you're not the referee.
Okay.
You're taking information from both sides, but what you're telling me is you are the source for that information and give it to each of the respective groups. My question is there interaction between the 2 groups?
Yes.
And if so, how does that work and in what format?
Absolutely. They'll sit there and discuss things. Hey, look, this is the way they got us. I mean, they want us to build this in 1 unit. Do you really, truly want it that way? I mean, realistically. No, I think it should be cut in half. You made a decision to cut it in half. Realize that you just transferred that to the field. And you're okay with that? Yes. So that communication is there.
Then you as the moderator and you as the information gatherer, you make that transfer of fabrication hours.
Absolutely. Because you have just transferred, yes.
Okay.
You have just transferred those hours to the field.
And I assume that your project managers are part of that conversation?
Everyone is, everyone's aware of this. Now, the same thing happens with project managers. A lot of times project managers will want to go out there and just, boom, go to the fabricators or whatever. And I'm okay with that. Come back and tell me the conversation that you had with them. That's all I'm asking for, because I have gone out into the shop, well, so-and-so told me to this. When did this happen?
Well, there's project managers and there's project manglers.
There you go.
It's a spelling error, but it's the reality of it.
You're absolutely correct. You know, again, the commitment's got to be there. No matter what it is that you use. Yes, sir.
Just one comment. Sometimes it can seem like it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to keep all these records and to input the information and do all this. But from my experience, it takes a lot more time, and you have a lot more wasted time if you don't.
You're absolutely correct.
The other thing I would say is that people are talking about morale and how staff see each other. Again, it's fairly natural for the guys on the shop floor to think that the people in the office sit around all day having a coffee and not doing very much. And the people in the office tend to think that the guys on the shop floor are moaning all the time and grumbling. One thing that we always did was we got together and went bowling and mixed the teams up with the office and the fabricators and the installers, and that helps to get a bonding. If you can do something like that in your company, maybe have something social on a Friday night or something like that occasionally, that really helps to get that team building and people working together and understanding each other's problems a bit more than keeping them separate all the time.
And getting it out of the workplace.
Getting it out of the workplace, it's in a neutral place, you're on the same team, you're maybe playing bowls or something like that, and we have an award, just something that was made in the workshop, and this team will get it this week, the winners will get that. People work together and understand each other and have a chat, and everybody talks about work all the time when they're there anyway. So, but things like that really help with team building.
You're absolutely correct. You know, we've gone as far as when the production needs help, I've approached project managers, salesmen, whatever. Guys, we need some help. They've gotten out there, maybe just crating or whatever the case may be, wrapping something up, but they get out there and they'll do whatever is needed to be done. They know that, again, it's a team. Yeah, the salesman can easily, project manager can easily say, yeah, well, I'm going home, y'all deal with it. I'll just, you know, take care of it. They have gone out into that shop, gotten dirty, and they're okay with that because it's a team effort.
Is that respected by other people in the team?
Yeah. Now, I'm going to lie to you, some of the fabricators will sit there and say, ooh, fresh meat's coming out. Let's see what we can do. And the salesmen, they know what's going on.
My response to that is, you know, hope the change in diet doesn't make you sick.
There you go.
Here it is.
Yep. No, they're okay. They enjoy it. Everyone, there's the respect there. There really is.
Okay.
Again, not to say that we won't have our disagreements. I think if we don't have our disagreements, we all kind of look around and say, what's fixing to happen here? You know, I say, something's, no mistakes on that job? Really?
Causes
You know,
some paranoia, doesn't it?
yeah. Gee, I think the Q&A's been kind of going on. And does anyone have any more questions? Yes.
How many hours per day do you spend on the scheduling and the allocations and tracking?
As long as I've been doing it, I've shrunk that down. I spend about an hour and a half of my day.
That's it.
And that's because, again, it's become a habit. I got my routine. I know what time I'm shutting this down. Come in on Monday mornings, boom, pull my reports. I also send the information, you know, the time and attendance to do payroll. Yes.
You spend an hour and a half studying and massaging this, but part of the template, is that automatically loaded? So you're not doing that, for example, with the total hours. That's coming from another program and automatically dumping into here, so you're not regenerating all.
Correct.
That
What you just seen up there is literally on the scheduling. That's literally on the computer. And it gets
So it
adjusted.
doesn't come, it's not dumped on a job loss. That spreadsheet is it's a standalone item. Once you populate the master schedule, it does then populate the other sheets. It's except for the one that has the carryover hours when you have to adjust it. That has to get manually loaded every day.
They're all linked. I think the only one that's not linked is the daily one. Yeah.
So yours primarily massaging hours,
Massaging it.
the realistic
Yeah.
analysis.
Yes. You know, and then on Fridays, I'm going in there, I'll have JR call me, are you ever going to get out of that schedule? Because only one person's allowed in it. I really need to do it. All right, I'll give you 30 minutes. Because I'm going through, on Fridays when I personally log it down in my computer, and I'll go throughout the day as I start running my audits to start adjusting. And I say, I started, but things come up. You know, I say hour and a half a day, that's Monday through Thursday. Friday, I'd say maybe 4 combined throughout the whole day.